What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is January 13th of 2023. Well, folks, I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are, because in today's video, I want to spend some time to break down Bitcoin's recent price action and build up towards around $18,800, especially following the recent consumer price index measure that's measuring inflation in the United States. So I want to spend some time to do a couple things. I want to try to break down the price action of Bitcoin, talk about our thoughts about it at the moment, talk about the CPI details that I don't think many people are focusing on, and what it tells us about the future outlook of where Bitcoin's price and the broader asset markets will be moving. We got a lot of things to dive into, as well as a sponsored review of our long-term partner Kryxivia, so stay tuned for it. You won't want to miss it. And if you like the video, drop a like. So let's go ahead and kick things off. All right, guys, so basically Bitcoin has gotten up to its highest point here since the midst of the FTX sell-off back in November. And I'll be the first to say here again, we didn't see a continued flush down move just yet. And I'll be continuing to talk as we go through the video about why I'm still set on that idea that eventually we will see that. But I'm not going to negate the fact we are definitely seeing a bump up here in the market. And we're seeing what could very well be, yet again, another relief rally. Or if we see the right technical signs, which we'll talk about in today's video, I'll be open to the idea that perhaps crypto might have bottomed, that the Fed may have control on inflation. But there are a few key things we need to see before we can get confident on that. And as we talked about in many videos, we know what we want to look for a bottoming signal. It's not about picking lows, it's about finding a trend change when price is really starting to signal that it's ready to go up. Now, the reason why I just want to kind of dispel any FOMO here is that, again, as we're not focused on picking the absolute low in price, we'd rather wait for trend. It's important to realize that we are still well below the 200-day moving averages. We are still well below the 200-week. And we have seen many moves, sometimes in a single day, that have done the exact same range of percentage gains for Bitcoin's price over this period of time. So it's not something alone that we should absolutely go all in on. And there's no need to have to go all in on. For those of you who are sitting in cash, or for those of you who may already have positions, maybe want to make additions to your positions. Okay, so just want to make that clear. Now, we'll come back here to maybe Bitcoin a little bit later on, but I want to go ahead and talk about the month-over-month reading and year-over-year reading and dive into the nitty-gritty details that the vast majority of people are not spending time on. Most people simply look at the headline numbers and then they see what price does. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to dive a bit deeper. Now, I got to be honest, the headline numbers do look really good. This is what we've been talking about for months that we've wanted to see within the CPI reading. The month-over-month changes in negative territory, deflationary territory. That's really what it is at the end of the day. We are now starting to see, according to the CPI, that consumer prices month-over-month went down. Now, to be honest, as we all know, the CPI is a bit fudged, as most government metrics are, but again, it's always been generally fudged. And there's a good reason why we're seeing the CPI come down since back during October. I do believe that the CPI, or at least the actual inflation within the economy, per what consumers are spending, is relatively flat or potentially negative. Big reason for this is because of fuel prices, as we'll talk about as we go through the CPI reading. This is what led us towards the very nice 6.45% number versus the previous highs back in June around 9.06. You get enough of these months where we start to negate the previous high accelerations back in 2021 and have some negative readings, you're going to get down to 2% in the next couple months if the Fed can keep this up. But again, why did prices go down this much? Why did the CPI decline? Well, it's not because the broader range of consumer goods are really going down. You still got shelter costs, for example, going up 0.8%, rent, which again, if you were to take a look at the core PCE and some of the other more realistic inflationary measures, are making up about 40% of people's expenditures. Their rent expenditures still going up month over month, not to mention medical services, transportation services, a whole range of different things outside of energy. But as we can see very clearly, as energy gets its own category, and to be honest, it is a very large component of what people spend their money on, roughly probably about 25-30%, if you're considering gasoline costs, if you're considering electricity bills, everything that energy plays a role in, as well as the sub-effects that it has on different types of commodities and goods. Generally speaking, these metrics practically all went down except for energy services. We can see that fuel oil went down 16.6%, Motor oil down 9.2%, and generally the measurement of energy commodities down at 9.4%. This is mainly following the decline of natural gas, which during the month of December, we were in practically complete free fall here, breaking below here at the beginning of the new year into the 200-week moving average. It shouldn't be much of a surprise looking at these commodity prices why the CPI went down. There was a huge negative weight here on commodities. As more producers are showing up to the plate, the Fed's tightening is continuing to contract global growth or excess growth, and we're starting to see at least the starting signs of a softening labor market. We're far from over, in my opinion, but we are starting to see steps in the right direction. Not to mention, oil prices have remained relatively neutral here. Not only, again, as global production starts to ramp up to some degree, but also the U.S. government with its strategic petroleum reserve is keeping prices suspended, right? And I'm not trying to say these, this is why it's happening, and therefore, it's unfair and stuff. No, to be honest with you guys, these are steps in the right direction. And it very well showcases that we might be on our way towards having seen peak inflation. We might be on our way down here. I'm not going to negate that could be a reality. I'm happy to be proven wrong in that sense. We're not here about being right and being wrong. But the key thing here we need to understand is whether or not there's enough signs that, one, it's time to go long. Because I think the vast majority of you here are not trying to trade every relief rally and short every top in those relief rallies for the new correction lower. You're here wondering whether or not we're starting the next bull market. And I got to be honest with you all, while we have made some serious progress here and oil has been in a downtrend since June, we're still holding at this 200-week. I'm curious to see if natural gas will continue to move lower here. This seems like a very dramatic move for quite a short period of time since here in August. And along with that as well, the Dixie and the US 30-year yield are still remaining relatively elevated here. I'm curious to see how these will play out over the next coming days. But the big chart that I want to talk about, if you guys take away anything from this video, I think one of the last real important charts we need to look at is the volatility index. And this will really let us know if this is yet again another relief rally or if it's time to go long. Now, when we take a look at the VIX is the volatility index. It measures call and put option volatility, which are a form of derivatives on top of the S&P 500. And it's a great measure to understand when we are getting into, say, overbought periods and oversold periods. At least it's been very helpful in determining when relief rallies would end and also when we could expect relief rallies in price during the bear market. Now, as we generally know, most of you probably might know on the channel, if you watch DataDash religiously, you'll know that the VIX, when it shoots up, it's an inverse indicator to stock prices most of the time. Volatility usually goes up, uncertainty goes up when prices are going down. And vice versa, when volatility is relatively low, prices are usually doing quite well. Doesn't mean they're always at all-time highs, but they're usually trending higher. The key thing here I want to focus on is that since back in October, right? Since, again, going back here, around this period of time, commodity prices have really started to trend down here since October, right? We've continued to move lower on these commodity prices, right? Since then, the volatility index has been moving lower here, right? And during that period of time, equities like the NASDAQ have remained relatively flat, and those that are more defensive plays like the Dow Jones have really started to make some serious gains, going up about 20% since those lows. But I want to go ahead and take a look back at the VIX, all right? Because while some people may look at the VIX, most traders aren't aware of the VIX, they don't look at it. But the key thing here to understand is if we zoom out on the weekly candles, we see a very important trend here. Something that has been building up and has been consistent since November of 2017, over 5 years. This chart has remained relevant. I know we talk about interesting charts here on the channel. We sometimes do videos dedicated to individual charts. Folks, I got to tell you, this is a very, very important chart here. Whether you're a bull or bear, really, irrespective of where you think things are going here, we need to pay attention to this. Because the VIX, every single time it has come into this pocket, right? Sometimes it takes a couple weeks. Sometimes it can happen in a matter of 1 week, maybe not in an entire week, or 2-3 weeks. When we get into this pocket, this is usually when we start to move higher on the VIX. and we usually ramp up at least into the 25-point range or up to 33 points. That means that very likely equity prices, when the VIX is down in that range, are setting in a temporary top and ready to move lower. On the other end of the spectrum, though, to play devil's advocate, why we usually treat this as an opportunity to go short equities or to start taking profits. At the same time, if we see a significant breakdown below this, that could be a sign that we're ready to start the next bull market, or at least that the bulls are going to take charge for some time. Maybe it's not a full swing bull market, but we have a really significant relief rally ahead of us. That could also play out. But the key thing here is this. This number at 17.5 to around 18 points on the VIX is important to watch. And right now we are sitting at 18.83. We are not that far away, probably a week or so away. So what's my point here in all of this? For the short term, I think crypto, whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be altcoins, as well as equities, could move up over the next couple days to the next week. I'm not here to say that the momentum we're seeing is not justified to any degree. CPI numbers got people excited, but the question remains for us here on the channel. While that may happen in the short term, is it time for us to go long? Do we have the conviction to get really long just yet? And trust me, guys, we took our positions out of the market at a much higher price, around 24, 25K. I'll happily enter in again at a nice discount beyond that, right? Or if the signs start to showcase, right? If we start to see confidence interacting with that 200-day, who knows? Might be enough here to get us interested in having a small position. We're not completely one-sided here. The one thing, though, I have to say that really gets me a bit concerned is seeing what kind of equities are doing well during this period of time. What ones are market leaders here? Because as these inflationary numbers are going down, we're starting to see some of the very high-risk retail-focused stocks doing quite well. GME not only rallying from around 15.5 here at the lows to 20.6 per share, but on top of that, making an 8.3% move yesterday. And plays like Carvana, which are an absolute dumpster fire if you look at the books, not to mention the just abysmal situation in the rental car market, up over 25% yesterday after coming from the lows back in December at around $3.67 per share. Now, I want to ask you all something real quick, just as a little mental exercise, and why I'm interested in watching the VIX level, why I'm not getting too eager on a positive CPI reading. What happens when the market is excited about the CPI numbers? Well, the inflation numbers, right, get markets all riled up, equity prices go up, and then they start to sell their shares. They start to take profits. People make more money. What happens when people make more money? They go spend it in the economy. They start buying more stuff. And this is the problem here, and why, again, if you look back in the 70s, you had a decade of prolonged inflation, prolonged stagnation in equity prices. And that's the key thing we have to worry about here, is that if the retail-focused stocks start to go up and people, again, start taking profits, start selling their shares and spending money in the economy, this, again, the easing of financial markets can yet again continue to exacerbate inflation. That's what happened really in 2021. We not only injected a lot of money into the economy, but on top of that, you had eased financial conditions that prolonged asset valuations and made a lot of people stupid wealthy, who really didn't have to do anything for that. They didn't produce any value or supply within the economy, extracting all of that wealth. So this is a very important thing just to be in mind of here. I'm not saying that it's something that's going to have the absolute ultimate effect here on prices, but just be cautious here. And again, watch how that VIX plays out. I can't tell you guys enough. That's the chart that I'm going to be watching. If I start to see a nice pop up here on the VIX, that might be where I start to build some put positions with limited risk profile, and I know what I can lose as well as what I could gain. As we've seen with these relief rallies, this is usually the time when we get down into this 18, 19 point range over the past couple months, or as we've seen throughout the past 5 years into this channel pocket, that's where I'm going to get really excited to potentially go short. But for now, we're holding in cash. We're not doing anything too dramatic. I'm not here screaming to the roof that, this is rigged and it's going to go down. We'll have to see how price plays out here over the next couple weeks. Now, one thing as well that's important, if you guys haven't already, I definitely recommend you guys check out the Crypto Quant dashboard. It's a free tool we have here. It's one of our partner tools here on the channel. I got a link down below in the description. There's already dozens of you here who have favorited the board, who at least are tracking it or have set up Crypto Quant profiles, but I know there are hundreds of you out there who track the board. Generally speaking, we've got a lot of our different indicators here that I think signal some very important signs. If we go ahead and get the most important information here, the most recent one, we're starting to see the Nupal model start to move up here. We're starting to see as well the overall SMA, 30-day SMA, starting to hold relatively elevated here at 52 points. Again, neither of these getting into the kind of ranges of capitulation we would expect in a typical crypto bear market. Not to mention a recessionary bear market. I don't think, no matter where inflation goes, guys, even if the Fed has cooled inflation, I don't think the Fed is going to be able to cool inflation long term and avoid a recession, which is going to lead towards less consumer spending, lower economic growth, and therefore weaker corporate earnings, and therefore weaker performance and risk on assets. Until we get a flush down, I think, into the typical range of around 43 to 45 points, I think we got another thing coming to us. But that's just my thoughts here so far, guys. We're going to continue to track it over the next coming days. And again, don't fare so much about getting the absolute lows. It's about staying disciplined, waiting for the right signs, and we will capture them here when they come. But let's go ahead and dive into this really exciting review. If you guys enjoyed this video, drop a like. And let's go ahead and dive into the review of Kryxivia. Alrighty, everyone. So in today's sponsored review, we're going to be diving into one of the few gaming projects in the crypto space that's really got me excited going into the next year. And that is no other than Kryxivia. Now, for those of you who are hearing about Kryxivia for the first time, they're a game similar to that of RuneScape or World of Warcraft, an MMORPG or massive multiplayer online role-playing game. And not only are these games highly addictive, they're very fun to play, but on top of that as well, as I mentioned, Kryxivia is one of the few projects that has continued to build throughout the bear market and is actually building a world that I'm really excited to engage in and be a part of. So I want to spend some time today to do three key things. I want to talk a little bit about what Kryxivia is, showcase some real gameplay so you guys can get a feel for it before you potentially maybe dive into trying out the game yourself, and on top of that as well, talking about the upcoming awaited beta release that is going to be launching here today when the review goes live. So we got a lot of things to dive into. Let's go ahead and kick it off. So for those of you who may not be too big of gamers or perhaps not so much in the crypto space, I want to talk a little bit about what Kryxivia is. So Kryxivia is, as I mentioned, an MMORPG. So think of an MMORPG similar to titles like RuneScape or World of Warcraft. It's a big open world where you get to build a character, go on quests, play with different characters, sometimes fight against different characters, and earn different types of items. And like most MMORPGs, it takes place in a medieval setting. And I gotta say, there's a lot of different GameFi projects or play-to-earn games, if you will, in the crypto space that have really started to be built since Axie Infinity really took off back in 2020 and 2021. But I have to be genuinely honest with you all. There is a huge lack of actual development on so many of the projects in this space, whereas they had these big promises of what they're really going to build. And Kryxivia is one of the few projects that has actually gone above and beyond. They've been patient, they haven't been focused on excessively marketing the project, and are actually focused on building a game that I'm actually excited to play. If you want to dive into a little bit of the story or the layout of the main Kryxivia city or town, you can do so on the website. But this is the main world that we're going to dive into when we start playing the game. After you've created your character, you onboard through setting up a crypto wallet like MetaMask or Block Wallet, and it's very simple to get started. You can play it on practically any type of computer and even play it through your web browser. You don't even have to install the game as it's built within the Unity game engine, an engine I'm familiar with as I used to be really interested in game development before I got into finance and crypto. And this is really exciting to see that it's built in this web-based experience. It's highly scalable. It's free to play. That's the great thing. And on top of that, the big thing, as I hinted to a little bit earlier, is that it's play to earn. So you're actually able to earn while you play. Similar to games like RuneScape and World of Warcraft where you would earn in-game gold. But this time around, you're earning a cryptocurrency that's liquid, that's tradable on exchanges, and can be utilized to be able to mint and basically craft certain in-game items. So this is really exciting stuff. and it builds an entire marketplace around this really exciting universe, which is similar to the Mercantile Exchange or Grand Exchange in RuneScape, and also the economy that's been built around World of Warcraft. It's amazing when you have these size of scale when it comes to communities, when you start to get large amounts of players not only playing the game for fun, but on top of that, investing hours upon hours into the game. You start to really see economies form around this. And that's where crypto is really a match made in heaven here potentially for video games. We just have yet to see a good enough project really go out there and take that leap of faith. So I think Kryxivia's got the chance to do that here. And I want to go ahead and actually spend some time to talk a little bit about the game, show you guys some gameplay, some of the combat, and really the reasons why Kryxivia has the ability to scale out long term. It can have the greatest token economics, it can have some really cool functions and features that involve crypto, but if the game itself isn't fun, it's not going to take off. And that has been the biggest setback in the crypto space. So let's see if Kryxivia can change it and potentially be one of the first market leaders to do so. Alrighty everyone, so let's go ahead and dive into how you actually get set up with Kryxivia. You're going to start by clicking the Play Now button on Kryxivia.io. And you can choose from one of two options, either downloading the Kryxivia launcher or the WebGL client. I prefer just to do the WebGL client. It allows for a quicker onboarding experience, and the gameplay is actually incredibly smooth on the vast majority of devices. So let's go ahead and click on it. Now, you'll be prompted with a play button here on the center part of the screen. And once you click it, it's going to ask you to connect one of many wallets. Now, if you click on the Web3 wallet here, this will be the option if you're using MetaMask, Block Wallet, or many of the other web-based extension wallets. And I highly recommend you just simply use one of those to play the game. You don't need any funds in your wallet to start playing, just simply setting up a seed phrase and creating a wallet. So we're going to go ahead and click that, and we're going to type in the password. And then after that, it's going to ask us to sign that we want to go ahead and log in. Just like that, the game will start to load. So from there on out, we just got to wait a few seconds, a few minutes, and then we should be able to start playing the game. So now that we've loaded into the game, it's time to create your first character within Kryxivia. The good news is you can have many characters, and the process to create a character is relatively intuitive. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on showcasing that process today. But once you've created a character, it should show up here on the right-hand side under your wallet address. And as you can see here, I've got my character, Notorious Dashington. I know, a bit corny, but hey, we're in medieval times and we're in the magical town of Kryxivia. So I thought I'd go ahead and get a little bit creative with it. Now, if we simply go down here after selecting our character and click Play Now, we'll be able to dive into the world. Well, everyone, welcome to the world of Kryxivia. This is the Kryxivian city, the core common hub for all players within the game. It allows you to not only meet up with other players, but also be able to chat with important non-playable characters, such as merchants, spellcasters, the bank, and the NFT merchant that will allow you to mint your in-game items into tradable NFTs. Now, as you can just see right off the bat, the design of the game is very beautiful, especially the town of Kryxivia. And this will allow you to get around all the major things that you might need within the game. You can come here to the center to be able to purchase in-game items, and on top of that as well, there are many other things that we'll go and showcase here in just a moment. I think it's important to note one thing, that as you can probably see on the bottom hand part of the screen, that this is the alpha version 0.7. The beta is going to be released by the time of this review, so I'm hoping you guys will enjoy all the new features that'll come with it, which we'll talk a little bit about later on. But the core gameplay mechanics are quite simple. You utilize WASD on your keyboard to move around, use your mouse by clicking with the left mouse to be able to look around, and as we'll showcase here by going to the combat section of the map, we'll be able to start testing out the combat system before we go into battle. Now, in the far corner here of the map, we can start to see that we get towards this target range here, where we can not only battle test against other players just for fun, but on top of that, test out some of the combat systems on some of these dummy stands here. So we've got different types of spells that we can cast and different types of attacks. First off, I'm going to go ahead and showcase how to actually engage in combat. We've got our enemy here, we're standing nearby, and the enemy is within our range of attack. Now, it's important to understand that in Kryxivia, as you'll see when I actually apply my attacks, there's certain vectors or ranges, if you will, where the enemy will start to feel damage depending on where I'm pointing and where I'm standing. So let's go ahead and use the cleave attack here. As you can start to see, there's a certain defined range by the green band that showcases where anything standing will get damaged. And I'm doing a pretty decent deal of damage here. I can also use the sequence of blows, which is another sword-based attack, which does a little bit less damage. But let's say that I'm in need of some healing, I could go ahead and use a quick shower, which is going to give me additional health. Now at the moment, my health is full, but as we'll see as we test out some of the bosses, this kind of spell is going to come in handy. Not too far away from the city center is the quote-unquote NFT guy. This is the non-playable character that you interact with in order to take your in-game items that you earn either from defeating bosses or completing quests into tradable NFTs on the Polygon network. And this is really cool. Not only can you earn KXS tokens by interacting within the game, so you're actually able to earn in-game currency that has an actual value on the open marketplace, but on top of that you can take these items and sell them in order to maybe get us enough money to be able to buy other in-game items, or simply just to be able to sell the hard-earned items that you worked for within the game. And this is really cool, where Kryxivia gives you the freedom to be able to actually materialize those assets with real market value. So this is one of the big dynamics of play to earn within games. And it's similar to the marketplace feature that you might have within, say, the Steam browser, where in games like CSGO, you're able to sell skins and different types of in-game items that you utilize on your character. Now I want to go ahead and, while we didn't get to dive into everything here within the town, get into the fun stuff, the combat. So if we simply go here towards the other side of the town from where we were testing out our combat skills, it'll lead us over here towards a dungeon that'll essentially allow us to go towards various different worlds and fight different types of bosses. Now over time there's going to be more bosses, and some of these are not bosses you'd want to fight right at the get-go. Some of them are just too high level and can be quite difficult to fight. It's always good though to start with the training dummy or the K1 rig, which even for me as someone who's been playing for a little while in the alpha is still quite a difficult task. But let's go ahead in the training session and showcase what the combat system can look like. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and face the training dummy. So the training dummy is a really good kind of exercise for those who are new to the game, who really want someone to test their combat skills with. As you can see, as we move across the map here, the training dummy has different types of attacks. If I'm standing at a distance, it'll start to throw things at me, and we can indicate that through the red circle. If I stand in there during that time period, I'll take some damage from my player. If I move up closer, you can see that the boss may deal different types of attacks, where I'd have to move out before he actually attacks. One of my favorite elements about Kryxivia is its combat system. Not only are the controls relatively intuitive for a user, but on top of that, the bosses that you fight get progressively more difficult and engage in different types of attacks that you have to be prepared for as you knock down their health. And what makes things even greater is that if you get to the final completion of defeating a boss, you not only earn KXS tokens for your efforts, but sometimes get rare in-game items, like the one I just received here for defeating the training dummy. This is just a sneak preview of what Kryxivia's universe has to offer, especially considering the long-awaited beta release that's going to be coming out later on this afternoon that'll be jam-packed with a whole range of new features and updates that the team has been working hard on over the past couple of months to make a reality since its alpha release we talked about here on the DataDash channel. So my hat goes off to all the engineers as well as the other teammates who've been working hard to make this a reality. I know it's never easy to get these major updates out. But outside of that, I definitely want to call to you guys to give the game a try. Out of all the play-to-earn games that I've seen out there, this is the first one where play-to-earn actually makes sense. Because play-to-earn shouldn't be just to earn within a game. It should be a game that you want to play and you want to engage in and that you want to progress in when it comes to your character and your abilities. And I think Kryxivia has a lot to build on from the existing universe that they've already built. They have a great engineering team that's continuously focused on building rather than marketing. And I think the projects that are building here right now during the bear market are going to be the ones that build the applications people realize during the next run-up. So I'm definitely interested to see what Kryxivia has up its sleeve over the next couple of months. And if you guys are interested to test out the game, check out the link down below in the description. But either way, if you guys enjoyed this review or you enjoyed the core video that we talked about today, definitely consider dropping a like, consider subscribing, and again, checking out Kryxivia down below. But until the next video, everyone, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.